and Brian today. Um, our next order is the suspension of rules. I need a motion to suspend rules for COVID-related cases per executive order. Brian, second by Kate. Roll call.
Chairman Dillon,
Aye.
Mr. Elsesser, Ms. Pastusha, Kate, how do you vote?
I said aye. Sorry, did you hear me?
We do now, thank you.
Next is approval of the minutes, April 7th of 2020. Moved by Kate, second by Brian. Roll call.
Chairman Dillon,
Aye.
Mr. Elsesser, Ms. Pastusha.
Aye.
Passes unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Next, under reports, we're just going to move to receive and file those reports for Tri-County Regional Planning, Unsafe Structures and Development. Unless anybody has any questions or comments for those three. Seeing or hearing none, we're going to move to the zoning case 22-20-S, petition of Peoria County. Is there a motion to put this on the floor? Brian, second by
Make a motion.
Kate. Allow Kathy to speak on behalf of.
Okay. Thank you. Planning and Zoning is bringing several sections of our ordinance to you with a proposal for an amendment. The first is Section 2.2.6 of Chapter 20, Hearing Procedures. Thank you.
Talk really loud, Kathy.
Yeah. Currently, the Planning and Zoning Department publishes our Zoning Board of Appeals schedule for the year in January annually. We are proposing that we do no longer publish that and allow the Zoning Board to determine their schedule as needed. This will allow flexibility for the Zoning Board of Appeals based on their workload, as well as allowing flexibility if less meetings are needed due to budget cuts. It will also lessen the cost to the county for the actual cost of the publication. The second section is Section 3.5 of Article 3 of Chapter 20. This is a request to allow applicants to provide a prepared statement certifying that their special use application certifying that with their special use application, they will be responsible for the costs, all costs associated with their application. That could include attorney's fees, could include engineering studies, or any kind of expert retention, as well as any cost of appeals. The proposal would be to eliminate any financial burden to the county as a result of the special use request. This would help with the case of any kind of large special use cases we have that may be controversial, such as wind ordinance requests, or even solar farms, or any type of special use request that may have an appeal associated with it. The next sections of the ordinance are all related to the cannabis regulations that we adopted late last year. In December of 2019, the county did adopt cannabis regulations. Subsequently, however, the states followed up with some cleanup language, and these proposals are to bring our language into consistency with that of the state language. Proposals from Section 2718.3.5. We're asking that the applicants notify Peoria County within 10 business days of applying for the state. This will allow for verification by the county that the proposed zoning is correct for the use that they are proposing. Section 2718.3.6 clarifies that on-site consumption of cannabis will not be allowed in a retail tobacco store. The trailer bill for the state did give the county an option to allow that, and we're clarifying that that is not an option that the county is interested in. And lastly, the definitions were changed slightly by the state for 3 of the definitions that we also had in our ordinance, and we are asking those to be slightly revised to again be consistent with the state regulations. Staff is recommending approval, and the zoning board also is recommending approval unanimously.
Any questions for Kathy?
Kathy, have we had trouble in the past with people that applied for a special use and then they didn't pay later on or something like that, or?
So currently, they do pay for their special use application fee and publication fees. However, they are not responsible for, say the county is sued, or there is an appeal. They're not responsible for any attorney fees. They're not certifying that they're responsible for that. So this is to hopefully help the county in recouping costs, as well as if we were to have a large project such as a wind farm come into our community, those typically involve several zoning board cases. There's typically expert retention that's needed and special engineering studies. If the zoning board or the county board were to request those, this would allow us to ask for those costs to be paid by the applicant.
I see. So like when we had the racetrack, man, this has been like 15 years ago, wasn't it, or 17 years ago?
Right?
So we paid for all the fees, didn't we? Like out at the school out there, or did the applicant have to pay for that, or? How was it?
Actually, the school let us use that. There was no cost associated with that. Right. Mm-hmm. But there were extra costs for zoning board hearings.
Right.
For the multiple hearings, the per diem, I believe we had like a week's worth of hearings for that, so there were extra costs for the per diems and travel for the zoning board members.
Right. Okay.
Kate, did you have any questions? And that was a recommendation. Did you mention that? That was a recommendation from a board member?
Yes, the special use recommendation came from one of our zoning board members, who is also an attorney at Heil Royster, and he actually, I attended a seminar where he recommended this be part of our ordinance language.
Yeah, I thought that was nice of the board member to, shows with the quality of the board members that we have on the board.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call
No, I don't have questions.
Thanks, Kate. Seeing none, Brian, you no more questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Oh, sorry,
Oh.
got to do a
Aye.
roll call
We
vote.
need to do a
Sorry,
roll call
got ahead
vote.
of myself.
Mr. Dillon,
Aye.
Mr. Elsasser, Ms. Pastusha. Kate, how do you vote?
Sorry, aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Next is zoning case 18-20-U, petition of Deborah A. Silzer. Is there a motion to put this on the floor? Brian, second by Kate. Kathy.
This is a special use to divide a 23.06 acre parcel into 3 separate parcels of 13.6 acres, 8.7 acres, and 1.08 acres. This parcel is located on Southport Road in Rosefield Township. There are no consents or objections on file. Ms. Silzer and her sister and her parents own these 3 houses. The sisters would like to divide their houses off for their own selves, and the 1.8 acre, 08 acre piece that was their mother's, she's passed away, they would like to divide that off and then sell that parcel. The property and all adjacent properties are zoned A2 agriculture, with the exception of the one to the southwest, which is zoned A1 ag preservation. All of the surrounding properties are a combination of residential and agriculture. This is consistent with the area. North Eden Road serves as an access to all 3 dwellings. No cropland will be taken out of production in this split, although the overall LISA score did have a medium rating for agricultural protection. Each of these dwellings is served by its own private well and private septic system. We did not have a comment from the health department on this case. The request is consistent with the Peoria County Comprehensive Land Use Plan. It's also consistent with the Peoria County Rural Growth Strategy. This will also bring this parcel into compliance. Our zoning ordinance requires that there only be 1 dwelling on 1 parcel of land. So by dividing this into 3 parcels with 1 house on each, it will then come into compliance with the zoning ordinance. This will require a water waiver, which is our next case. Staff did recommend approval on this case with the restriction that parcels created by the approval of the special use may not be divided again, even if subsequently combined with other parcels, unless a rezoning is granted by the county board or unless such lot to be created meets the 25-acre minimum lot size in the A2 zoning district. The zoning board recommended approval with that restriction as well unanimously.
Questions for Kathy? Kate, you have any questions for Kathy? No? All right, hearing or seeing none. All those in favor?
Mr. Dillon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Elsesser, how do you vote? And Ms. Pastusha, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sorrell. Next up is a subdivision waiver W04-20, petition of Deborah Salzer. Is there a motion? Brian, second by Kate. Kathy.
Our subdivision ordinance does require that all new minor subdivisions have public water supply. In the case that we just spoke of for Deborah Silzer, they are proposing to divide those 3 parcels that will be on private wells. Therefore, they are requesting a waiver from that public water supply requirement. The petitioner has submitted well reports from a licensed well driller for each of those wells. They indicated recovery rates of 4.3 gallons per minute, 12.3 gallons per minute, and 7.9 gallons per minute, all of which exceed our requirement of 3 gallons per minute. Public water is approximately 7 miles to the west at the city of Elmwood. We did not receive comments from the health department on this request. However, due to meeting the 3 gallon per minute requirement, staff has recommended approval.
Questions for Kathy? Hearing none, roll call.
All right. Mr. Dillon,
Aye.
Mr. Elsesser, and Ms. Pastusha.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Jenny?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Upon reviewing the ledger of executive session minutes for the Land Use Committee, as in the past, it is the recommendation of the State's Attorney's Office that all previously held minutes continue to be held, as the need for confidentiality still does exist, and to destroy executive session audio recordings that are more than 2 years old, except those that relate to pending litigation.
Moved by Brian, second by Kate. Roll call.
Mr. Dillon,
Aye.
Mr. Elsesser, and Ms. Pastusha.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Miscellaneous?
Well, you already know from our emails 3 or 4, 5 or 6 months ago that there's a solar company or a windmill company in Texas that's interested and has been charting and plotting or whatever, windmills from all the way from Lower Illinois along Route 90 over to there to the Arrowhead Country Club in a mile either way.
So
And-
they're looking to come in. They've asked Kathy when that they can come in due to knowing COVID restrictions.
Yeah, no, I've been in touch with her all the time, and
Yeah, so
I
we
just
told-
told her, I said we'll have a meeting out in Princeville, but we just have to wait till we can have a meeting.
Well, they'd like to come into the county board and discuss also. So I've said that they can come in and talk to us. Probably the sooner the better, per se, as our restrictions. So not knowing what fall pertains, but I'll let Kathy talk.
I did receive an email actually from Kelly O'Brien today, and she indicated she would like to talk to some of the landowners, see if there's an interest in acquiring leaseholds on their land prior to coming to our committee. She hasn't been able to travel to talk to those landowners yet because of the COVID restrictions. So I'm not sure July will work for her, but she would also like to come in, the sooner the better.
Yeah, I mean, she wants to take the temperature of the Princeville community and the farmers and everything before she moves forward, or probably even comes to the county board. I told her we'd have a town meeting in Princeville, but I don't know how we couldn't even really do it now, could we? Or, I mean, it'd be pretty arduous to.
Well, stage 4 is Friday, which would be 50 people of social distancing. So as long as you social distance and still wear masks if you cannot. So you could hold a public meeting as long as not 50 people, more than 50 people. You would have to probably do it in multiple days, I would imagine, and do it if you might have to plan multiple sessions for it.
Right.
If I know there's two being, there's one in Lexington and another one in not Colchester. There's two in McLean County going on right now, and
With
they
the
just
same-
they
same
just
company?
wind farms, different companies, but and then there's also a one that just got wrapped up in McDonough County, and part of Knox. So, and then we also have, was it one other company that's currently in the middle of a wind study, and that one I think was out by Trivoli, if I do remember.
Correct.
And that this would be, it's a 2 to 3 year process probably, from what I've seen in passive play, but I think that's what they're expecting too, from
Yeah.
zoning, acquiring all your leases, getting air rights. It's extensive, and then they have to enter in agreements with all the townships because they have to basically build up all the roads to handle the amount of heavy equipment that comes in there, the
Right.
cranes and everything. So they spend millions on upgrading township roads with rock. The one I saw in McDonough County was like that.
Mhm. So, if I use, I don't know, are you allowed to use a school right now? Because somebody said you can't use a school right now for a public meeting because if the school's not open, do you know, Jenny, or?
I think it's probably up to the school board, but
Okay.
I think, yeah, schools right now are shut down.
Yeah.
They're not allowing people
When-
in.
If you wanted a large meeting and depending on weather, your best bet would just see the school allow you to go on the football field and have an outdoor meeting.
Have an
with the
outdoor
si-
meeting as long as it didn't rain, it'd be perfect.
Yeah, be weather dependent, but that would be your best bet to get as many people in a room as possible
Right.
and allow proper social distancing.
We'd probably actually have it up at Troutman Park because my son-in-law said, I don't think you can use the school sports facilities right now because I mentioned that we should call Major League Baseball and ask them if they want to come and play some games in Peoria, like downtown and then out at Limestone and Washington where they have big enough fields, and because Peoria is a safe place, and my son-in-law said you can't play on a baseball field right now that is owned by the public schools because of the situation. I mean that's probably a joke and it's not really a joke, but you
Well,
never,
you'll be hearing more publicly from them here probably sooner than later, I would imagine. They seem pretty gung ho about proceeding.
Right.
Right.
Kate, do you have anything for miscellaneous? Well, this being the first meeting back in person, thanks. And I will say, I know I talked to staff quite a bit in those times. And even though nobody was coming into the building, our planning and zoning department was still issuing permits, plan reviewing, and full steam ahead. And they did an exceptional job. So I want to thank them for all that they did, even in strange times. And obviously, we know Scott and his team, Shauna and everybody, and Ellen, everybody was working hard. So appreciate it. Glad to be back in person, even if it's a little different under these circumstances. But and we will be having, there were zoning cases, so we will be having a meeting next month. I know we had a couple months where we didn't have anything, but there will be one next month too. So seeing nothing, anything else?
No.
Seeing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you.